Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I've taken you down to Brighton Marina. Brighton Marina is Europe's largest marina, possibly one of the largest, or maybe the largest in the world, but definitely one of the largest in the world. So I was hoping to take you for a walk along the breakwaters, but obviously haven't planned this video very well. Breakwaters are closed today. However, I'm going to explore the marina, and then what we're going to do is just head down and go for a brief walk along the cliff edge. So got some wonderful views from out here, and possibly closed due to the weather. We've got a little break in the weather, but when the sea is particularly rough, the water can actually break over these walls and down into them, wash you essentially off the breakwater. And I've been out in those conditions a long time ago, but it looks like they've now decided to stop people from getting washed away, to close the breakwater at certain times of the year. So this is a great vantage spot to see how the marina was constructed. It was made in the 1970s. Work started here in 1970 and went through to 1978, and it used the technology that we had used in World War II to invade Europe. So these big round structures here are called caissons, and what they did is they would construct the caisson on dry land, and they would be empty or hollow, so they would float. They would float these caissons out into the water and then fill them with debris, maybe concrete, but maybe just ballast, sand. Just fill them till they sunk and sat on the bottom of the ocean, and then on top of that, as you can see, they built a concrete breakwater. I didn't realise that they closed these off. In the summer, it's a nice place to come for a walk. It's quite a long walk because, surprisingly, this marina is very, very big. You don't get the full sense of it until you are actually on foot. Looking at it as you come into it, all of the shops are gathered at the west end of the marina, and this east end is mainly housing, so you don't get to see the depth of it unless you make the long walk all the way through. Here we can see some of the caissons there exposed, and that's the outlet for the marina. Just looking down here, we can see where they've basically cut off or divided this section of the marina off, and what they would be doing is, like this building over here, they'll be filling in this section, I guess, with rubble, and building another block of flats just like that. This building here is a new addition to the marina, mainly comprising of housing, but on the bottom there we've got some retail outlets down the bottom there, which I'll show you from the other side when we get there. Here we can see the great complexity and effort that was made to make this marina happen. We've got these roadways cut into the side of the cliff, which dominates this end of Brighton and right the way along towards Saltdean and Rottingdean. And this complex road network having to be built just to get the cars down from the cliff top down to the actual sort of land that they've claimed from the sea. This section of beach here that runs down to the pier, this end section here is what Brighton is somewhat famous for. This is the nudist beach. Not many people out there on a cold day like today. This grand building right up on the top of the cliff there, I'll put down on the screen the name of the building, but I believe it's a boarding school. It's very grand, and whenever you go along the coast road past it, it just dominates the view, and you can't imagine how good the view must be from the pupils that get to live and learn there. So the reason most people come to Brighton Marina is because we have bowling, a gym, a casino, and just down there on the right hand side we've got an 8-screen cinema. So here we have the boardwalk. Basically this just gives you access from the car park that's in the marina. You do get 4 hours free parking in this car park, down to a load of retail outlets built in the harbour, and serves as a little community in itself. A lot of people come down to the marina to do shopping, but mainly it's because of the restaurants and nightlife. So here we've got the retail outlets stretching right the way right into the marina. You can see all of the boats here, all moored up. So we've got some water tour boats here. You can go on tours out to the windmills in the middle of the sea, and originally the marina was a place where you could go to France. They were running jet foils from here to Dieppe, and this ran from I think 1979 to 1980. I think later in the 80s and 90s they tried to run some catamarans. However, the sea does get quite rough in the channel, and these boats were very limited on what they could do and the weathers that they could cross in, so it kind of ran out of steam. So as we've had a look around here, we can see there's been a lot of closures of some of these restaurants here, and this down below is one of the casualties of them. Very famous restaurant in Brighton. It's been a Chinese restaurant for probably as long as I can remember, maybe 20-30 years, and interestingly the restaurant sits on a barge moored in the marina. But as you can see, no longer a restaurant, just sort of waiting for somebody to take over the reins. Absolutely enormous amount of boats in here. You can see how this is Europe's largest marina. So on this east end of the marina, it's given up to housing here. Got some very expensive property here. If you have a boat and want to be able to use it, then this is a great place to moor your boat and live. Also benefits from all said restaurants and a Asda, so you don't really need to leave the marina. So I used to work in Brighton, and used to deal with quite a few celebrities, some local and some not so local. A lot of them did live in one of these very expensive properties, and also very expensive properties up on the top of the cliff there. I'd say those are slightly more exclusive, but if you own a boat, then this is the place to be. Another great view of the caissons over there, and some of the local wildlife enjoying the peace of and the still waters of the marina. So a lot of these boats look the same, but we've got a, I think it's a catamaran, or they call it, the twin hulled boats over there. Kind of reminds me of Le Vagabond, and I believe this was where they arrived in England from sailing across the Atlantic with Greta Thunberg. But comment down below if I've got that wrong, but I remember them coming to a big marina like this. I was pretty sure it's Brighton, but probably was a bit further along than they needed to go. Yeah, great place to land, and Brighton, having some of the values of Greta Thunberg, would have been a great place for her to come to. And here we find where the real men hang out. We've got the fishermen's boats here with all their, I'm not sure what the flags are for, but all these little flags. I don't see any today or this time of day, because generally they'll get up at 3 in the morning or early in the morning and sail out to sea, get their catch, and they'll be done by early morning. So you don't often see them round at this time of day. They may well be selling their fish to the restaurants down here or things like that. So some very little posh huts out there in the middle of the marina there as well. Comment down below if you know what these are. Possible, I don't know if people could stay there, or they're just waiting areas for when you want to get into your boat where you can have a drink or something. Look relatively new, so I haven't seen them before. Here we have a complex lock mechanism to allow the boats to get to the exclusive inner marina. Huge rams here where they'll be putting on these massive doors to let the boats through. Here we have the inner marina. So if you don't want to walk too far to your boat, you can virtually tether it right up against your flat or building, and just got to negotiate the lock to get out is the only problem. From yachts to barges. Interesting to see a swan making itself home in the marina. If you have got some chess pieces and a ping pong paddle, then there's some free games to be had here. Interesting boat there called the Lady Anne, because the marina was opened by her sister, Queen Elizabeth II. It's interesting architecture down here, all built in the 1980s and 90s, and I suppose it's trying to mimic Georgian architecture, but kind of looks a bit more like a Disney park. This is one of the older parts of the marina, and you can kind of see it from this building here, which I remember being brand spanking new now, and it looks like an antique, so it doesn't say much for me. This restaurant was one of the sort of focal points. Wasn't the Emerald when I would be going to that, it was a bar and restaurant. Put down in the comments below if you can remember the name of this unique restaurant. Great views when you look east, and this is something that England is famous for, these white cliffs, insurmountable cliffs, and it was not far along this coast that we were invaded by the Normans, roughly about there where you see the cliffs dip down. There is a small inlet there, and the Normans invaded England and into Hastings, which is along in that direction. And if you keep going east, you've got the White Cliffs of Dover. Here we can see the cliff walk, goes right the way along to Saltdean, Rottingdean area, Lovely place for a stroll on a summer's day. And from here we can see, down here we've got rock pools created by a lot of the rocks in the area. If you've got kids, this is a great place to come. You can often find crabs in there and small fishes as the sea retreats. Right here we can see geology in action. So this is the chalk from the South Downs, where it's been eroded over hundreds and thousands of years, and you can actually see how we get the pebble beaches that Sussex is famous for. Here we can see the flints or flint pebbles that have been formed inside of the chalk, and gradually over time obviously the water will erode them to the point that those are released and then make up these beaches. Interesting little door in the cliff face here. Let me if you know where this goes to in the comments down below. Just going to try and give you some perspective of the cliffs from down below. So I'm going to end the video up here. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope this has been useful. A bit of an impromptu video for me, so not a lot of research done prior to coming here. However, I found it interesting to show you around Europe's largest marina. If you could like and subscribe, just hit the button down in the bottom right hand corner. It will help me to make more videos.